Good morning, everybody. So today I'm going to show you how to make some hands, the articulated hands, and if you want to go for something a little simpler, I'll show you another little thing that's a little bit simpler. But first I want to start off with the articulated hand. Articulated just means that you have these little areas here where you can bend it. So this is articulated right there. So for the articulated hands, you would need some wire. It really doesn't matter what kind of wire it is as long as it's nice and skinny. So like sometimes when I've run out of, I just use jewelry wire, but if I run out of jewelry wire, I've occasionally used wire out of twist ties. Like I just wanted to finish something. So, you know, the twist ties that you close garbage or like your bread things with, sometimes those will have the little metal twist ties with the paper on it. You just take the paper off. You're not required to do the articulated ones. I'm just showing you this in case you would like to. Right after the articulated, I'll show you the non-articulated, which you can do without wire. So you're just going to take a little teeny piece, and you can hold it in your hand, but for videoing it's easier to see if I hold it with the pliers. You're going to roll out a coil. You're going to use your needle tool to slice off little bits that are all about the same size, and then I just re-rolled them because they get all flat on the edges when I cut them. And then you're just going to slide these on here like little marshmallows, so that's why all of those look like little toasted marshmallow bits. So you just add them on. If a little bit of the wire pokes out the end, that's okay. You can always trim it off later, either with a pair of scissors or if you happen to have a pair of the little clippers like this, or the big clippers if you have some in your garage or something. But like I said, this part's not specifically required. You don't have to have the articulated fingers. I just like the way they look. So you just continue adding on your little marshmallows, which are actually your bones, until you know you've got your 4 fingers and a thumb. Now if you want to have like a shape to your fingers, I would bend the wire before putting the finger pieces on. So like if you wanted a bent finger, I would physically bend your wire first and then thread on the little bones, but it's kind of up to you. Now for the palm of the hand, I make both palms of the hand at the same time, so that way they're going to be basically the same size and shape. But just so you can see how I made this, you take a little ball, flatten it out, and then I kind of have my fingers on one side and I kind of pinch it just a little bit, and then I pinch the end, so it's this kind of a shape. Then we're going to add the fingers on this side and then the thumb on that side. Now make sure as you're doing this that you end up with 2 hands that are, you know, opposite each other. You don't want to end up with 2 right hands or 2 left hands or anything like that. So when I go to add these on, here's my thumb. I only put 2 of the little joints on my thumb because I only have 2 little parts to my thumb, and all my fingers have 3. So I'm going to start with my longest finger, and you know, deciding what the fingers look like, it really just depends on which one ended up being the longest and which one ended up being the shortest. And you just kind of slide those in there. And at first it really doesn't matter what it looks like because you're just going to kind of wiggle them around anyway to make them look the way you want it to look. Okay, so I've got my 4 fingers kind of on here. Now for me that looks a little bit funky because this one's longer, so I'm just going to take that one out and I'm going to switch it. Just because I feel like it'll look a little bit better if I switch those 2. And it, like I said, until you bake these, you can change them and make them, you know, however you want. Okay, so I've got my 4 fingers on there. I'm gonna kind of curve just a little bit because usually your hand is not super flat. Usually it's got a curve to it. So, and you can do that. You can kind of, you know, adjust the fingers to make it look more or less curved. The main thing you want to watch out for is, you know, make sure all the wire is covered. So just kind of poke at it until all the wire is covered. And you'll have another chance to do that later too if you need to. And then make sure, like I said, so I think this is going to be the inside of my hand and this is going to be the outside of my hand. So I want to check and make sure, you know, that I've got the thumb on the correct side, because I don't want to end up with two fingers that, or two hands that are not the same. So there's my hands. Now, when I want to go and actually put them on my La Catrina, if my wire is still like this, that's okay. I just want to kind of check and make sure, because really this wire is only going to end up in the palm of the hand, and we're going to end up adding a little bit of clay on top. So for me, this is too much, a little too much wire, so I'm just going to trim a little bit of the wire off. And like I said, your wire is a little bit thinner than mine, so you can cut it with a pair of scissors. Just kind of wiggle it a little bit. So kind of hold it and wiggle it a little bit. There. Okay, so this should be about right. Now, when I do this, I'm going to have a little bit of extra clay that I've already kind of rolled out into a ball shape, because I'm going to actually make the palm of the hand a little bit thicker. The other thing is if you unfold it just a little bit so it's a little bit flatter, that actually helps with adding the hand on there to help keep it kind of flat. So I've already positioned my hand. I've got my metal trimmed and where I want it. This is kind of in an awkward position for me for videoing, but usually I have it in a little bit easier position for me to stick it on here. Okay, so I just lay the clay over the top and then kind of blend it in so I can use my fingers if I can fit them in there, or I could use a tool. But the main thing is just, you know, keep that metal piece kind of in the center of your hand and try to thin out your hand so it doesn't look super thick from this side. So I'm just kind of patting it and smushing it a little bit just to kind of get the hand in the shape. Let's see, there we go. Hand in the shape that I want, right? And if you have a little bit of the wire still showing, that's okay, because a little bit we can kind of cover up with a little bit more clay. We can just extend the arm a little bit. So I'll just roll out a little flat coil. I'm gonna add that on there. Now, as a detail piece too, I have a tendency, yeah, so that would just count as my wrist bone right there. And for me, like, that looks pretty good. I feel like I'm done. Now, if I was going the other direction and like my hand covered most of it, like it does on this one here, I do still tend to add a little bit of a wrist piece right there. It's just a little ball of clay that I stuck on there. So that's the first hand. Now the second hand that I'm going to show you is this one here. So this one doesn't take any wire at all. So it's totally, like I said, up to you how you want to do it. But for that one, it's just taking all the clay that you think you're going to need for the fingers all at one time. And you're going to roll it to condition it and kind of start flattening it out and making it a little bit longer. Your palm's going to be a little bit bigger, and then your fingers, like your palm is a little bit bigger than the end of your fingers. So you want to kind of imitate that a little bit. And you keep thinning it out and kind of stretching it. And skeletons, like I said, this doesn't have to be specifically anatomically correct. You can kind of have these however you want, as long as they look fairly skeletal. So at this point, I've got my basic hand shape. So it's just kind of, you know, the basic shape like this. But I need to add in where my fingers are going to go. But I have to decide, do I want my fingers curved? Do I want them separated? What do I want to do? So I'm just going to have mine have kind of a gentle curve to them. And to do that, I still want to kind of make it look slightly articulated. So if I take my needle tool and I kind of bend an area over my needle tool like that, that helps give me a cleaner line for where I'm going to bend it. And I just want to just bend the fingers just slightly. So same thing, I'm going to use my needle tool to kind of support on the inside to allow me to kind of give a little bit more definition to the outside. If I really want to, I could add on little tiny balls to make like the knuckles and stuff like that. I'm not choosing to do that on this one, but it's totally up to you. So once you have this basic shape, then you want to start adding in fingers. So you're just going to use your needle tool and hold it fairly flat and lightly draw these on. And since this is a skeleton, you know, like fingers are usually pretty skinny, and there's, you know, it's not super crazy rounded because it's a skeleton, so it's just bones and stuff. So I'm going to pat off my little extras. Now, if you want to, you can add on some of the little, like, kind of detail-y stuff as far as, like, adding, just drawing on some little joints and stuff like that. So this part's kind of up to you how detailed you want to get on that. Do try to do the inside and try to make it match as good as you can. It doesn't have to be perfect, but you know, the more time you spend on this, the better it's going to look. Now, the only thing we have left is the thumb, and you know, the thumb kind of sticks off from the side. It doesn't go up like a finger. And usually when students make these, that's the thing that they have the biggest problem with is the thumb. So you're just going to take a little ball, kind of roll it out. I'm going to go ahead and give mine just a little bit of shape, and I can use that same trick with the needle tool to kind of help me shape it a little bit if I need to bend it. And then now it does come out the side, but it slightly sticks up. So when I add this on, I want to make sure that I'm adding it onto the side and that it's going at an angle just a little bit, but I'm going to kind of angle it just slightly like that. Now you can blend this in if you want to, but it is supposed to be a bone, so if you want to leave that there because you think it looks nice and bony that way, that's fine too. Just make sure, see, like right here, I made two of the same hand, so I wouldn't want to use both these hands on the same character, right? I would want to make sure that I made two opposite hands. But you would add it on exactly the same way as the articulated hand. You would push it on and have a little piece of extra clay to push over the top where the wire is. All right, thanks everybody.